Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Schmoe Me the Money. We're doing something a little bit different today. That's what we do. We keep things different. We try and keep you on your toes. We have a special interview today with a very unique man. Normally, when you talk about a person, you say their actual name, but this person is just known by three little letters. He is a part of the two-time award-winning Schmoedown Media of the Year Award, Mr. P to the L to the D. How's it going, Mr. PLD?
It's going great, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it. You guys are kicking ass here, so it's an honor to be asked on.
And it's a pleasure to have you on, because I know right now you're a little bit busy, because you still got to do your stuff on C2A. You got the stuff with the First Class League. It takes up a lot of your time, so we appreciate you carving out some time to just come on and chat with us.
Anytime for friends like you and friends like that, of course, because Action Army is always a very supportive group of individuals that they are.
Yeah.
We
know that people really love you because of things like this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I get it.
We have one person that's being nice.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. I always subscribe to the Kaiser comment of if they're busting your balls, you know they love you. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Like if you can bust each other's balls all day and all night long, then that's true friendship.
Exactly. Absolutely. And that means I have the most friends in the Action Army probably at this point.
Sounds like they're your friends, but they don't want to be your business partner.
Could be. Belford's always like that, though. He loves me one minute, hates the next. It's
just business. But kind of in regards to that, how did you come about joining C2A?
Oh, C2A. Okay. Well, that was a long time ago now. We're actually hitting our 3-year anniversary, I believe, on the 28th. So very close. I was not around at the beginning. In fact, there's very few people who are still around that was there at the beginning. I know Danny Joy was there in the beginning, and Danny Koss was there in the beginning, and Nat Vu started like right after. But for the first, I'd say 6 months or so, maybe I was not there. They kind of expanded out, added a few people here. Finally, I don't even remember who brought me aboard, but again, I came aboard the same time. I want to say I came aboard the same time as Billy, maybe, or was it Joey? I'm not sure exactly when it was. One time I came aboard, back when we weren't even doing just purely Schmoedown content. Like the first C2 episode was on like a review of the movies of that year, maybe potentially. Then it was like an audio podcast only. But then we, it's a famous story. One time we went live accidentally because Nat Vu just hit the wrong button, and about 45 minutes in, I'm getting texts from Ben and Drew like saying to check the comments, and we're like, "What the fuck? What comments are we talking about? What are you talking about? We have no idea." Before you, there you go. That could be. I think I was actually after Alex and Dylan. I definitely was after them before Billy.
We tried to do a little bit of research, and by little I mean like I think we went on YouTube for about 5 minutes. I didn't even realize that the original thumbnail said "Call to Action" and Action Army Podcast, and it was just audio. Because if you recall, Buck sent you a message earlier asking about StreamYard and how early on you guys had StreamYard. And it turns out like you guys were using like Google Hangouts up until like August 2019. I was going through it all. I was checking to see when the transition was made. Because Buck was telling me earlier about how important StreamYard had been after in the last year especially. I think Buck, you were a little more, you knew more about what you were saying than me. I was more like, really.
Yeah. I mean, there was the whole thing where a lot of people got fired from Collider, and I feel like that's when this space really started using it, because you had people like Roca and Roxy and Riley. They were all using it, but you guys at C2A have been using it since August of 2019. And at that point, I noticed it had the little StreamYard logo in the top, so you were still using the free version at that point. So was it you were able to figure it out right away, or was there a lot of like trial and error when you first got started with StreamYard?
I think what happened was out of necessity, because I want to say Google Hangouts was going away. Like they were eliminating Google Hangouts or something like that, and then we weren't able to use it anymore. So we didn't actually want to move at that point. but we needed to. So I mean, I think we had an experiment with OBS like once or twice, and none of us at that time, especially, were especially technically oriented. So we were like having a pain in the ass trying to get everything to work out, and the audio and video to sync up, and we didn't want to do any of that. We just want to talk out on the internet. You know what I mean? That's right. Belford says that, right? That was the dark shadow years. That's what I used to go to Google Hangouts. I used to hang out in my car, my phone. That's how I used to be on my back in the day before I actually got a computer set
like what you do in the Zooms during like after show hangouts and stuff now.
Exactly. That's goes back to when on my break at work. Sometimes I go out there during the Zoom hangouts. But I love you too, Michael. But so basically, what I'm saying, yeah. So we were forced to do that. We tried experimenting with like OBS for like I don't even know if we even did a show or not. But then I remember we found this StreamYard. We looked for other options. We found this one that said web-based. We're like, ooh, web-based. That means no software. Ooh, let's try that. And it was just pretty simple to figure out, we thought.
Yeah.
We took a couple days to kind of glance through. We tried it once. We're like, well, we're going to do it. Let's fucking go live with it. It worked so easy. We're like, yeah, we can do this.
Unlike OBS, right? Unlike that test video that's about a minute long on your channel. And all it says is like test. And it looked like a fucking train wreck.
That is exactly what it was. It was a legit
OBS is you need a very fast computer.
Yes.
To use it. If
I think that's part of it was. It's
going to be like all choppy like this, and it can get, and especially on Mac. Mac is it's so frustrating to try to use it on Mac. PC it works a lot easier to use.
Great. So. I am actually better on it now, given what I had to do later on, but I guess we'll probably get there. I do know that when we did StreamYard, it was pretty easy to handle at that point, and we went through the rest of the year, got a hold of it, and then when everybody did, the space did collapse, or Collider rather fired everybody. Pretty much, it seems like everybody was starting to join the space, everybody and their mother at that point. It was good that we were actually in that position. We had the ability to kind of help and help them kind of find their footing, because they were like us in a way. They didn't know how to stream on their own. They usually did Collider, they did AfterBuzz, they did stuff like that. They didn't do this stuff by themselves. So we offered up our assistance and our technical support. I know Jake was in a bunch of those, Belfer was in a bunch of those, I was in a bunch of those. We all, like Riley, Roca, Roxy, all of them kind of get to where they were. It was great to be able to give back to people we like loved watching and were appreciative of it, and they were appreciative back. So it was a good thing for everybody, I thought.
Yeah, so kind of transitioning here. If anyone doesn't know, Paul has been labeled by Brad as the executive producer of the First Class League. Now, you had a prior relationship with Brad Gilmore by working on with him and Jen Sturger on Coming Up Next. Is that kind of how you got this position within the FCL?
Yeah, that's basically the gist of it. I mean, I've been working for C2A for a while, obviously, and I've made, obviously with our helping out, I kind of networked and got to be friendly with a lot of people. I guess when Brad and Jen were doing Coming Up Next, they had RB3 at first, but they also were doing a lot of stuff. I think the first episode they did, like Brad tried to run the whole thing himself. Brad was hosting and running OBS and doing everything. I mean, he didn't do a bad job. It stayed on the air, so I got to give credit too. He's actually not a bad tech guy. He's not that bad of a tech guy. But he knew that going forward that was going to be something he didn't really want to have to worry about while hosting. So they looked for a producer. They knew RB3 was going to be there the whole time. But I think they were also looking for somebody to help develop the show at the time, which was in their mind, the idea of Coming Up Next was going to be like more of a segmented show than they had. Like Backstage was kind of like the interview show. SCN Line was kind of like the hangout show with everybody. Coming Up Next was supposed to be kind of like almost like a Sports Center kind of thing with different beats and different segments like that. And they wanted somebody to help develop that. I'm not sure exactly where my name came from. I don't know if it came from Christian or who it came from, but Christian did mention to me that Brad might be asking me to do something. And I said, okay. And I talked to Brad, and he got me aboard pretty quickly. I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's actually where I eventually learned OBS, because at first I actually wasn't even running the show. It was just producing, working with Jen. That's true. That is true. I did. I was definitely, especially that weekend in Houston, I was buying a lot of people drinks that weekend. I thought they said I looked like the old Italian father at a wedding. There's a way to come on, you enjoy yourself. Come on, have a drink. Yeah, it was fun. I just want to make sure everybody's happy. That's me. I make sure everybody's happy. But what happened with Coming Next is I was producing and I was basically writing the segments with Jet. We would write the segments about like we had come up with the Gucci-isms. Or we did something like the Halloweens. We had pictures come up, like we got collected like pictures of my Christian, all the people in the guests, who the child was in costume, that kind of thing. We would do segments like that, and then we'd just air it that way. I'd be backstage doing nothing else. It's kind of like I'd be the voice of God, so to speak, as they said, come on every once in a while. But then RB3 resigned because he got a new gig, and all of a sudden they threw it at me. He was like, "You want to just engineer the show?" So anyway, I had done at least C2A for a while. Of course, they didn't realize that I'd never done OBS and didn't really
It's a lot different. It's a whole
OBS.
different beast. It's a whole different beast.
Right.
If you have the base knowledge on how to work technology, I feel like if someone shows you on how to use OBS, then I think you'll pick it up fairly quickly.
That's pretty much what we did. We actually had like a training session, so to speak, with RB3. And also Courtney from Skybound. So they're kind of ran through some things, some basics or whatever. They also decided they wanted me to do some graphics for them as far as like the graphics for the show, which that's not my gig at all. That's Jake for C2A. I never do anything with graphics. And I told them flat out, I'm like, look, if you give me a template and it's just like filling in text or something, I could probably do that. But anything else, you don't want me doing it. So
that's what we do with our main. Yeah, that's what we do with our main thumbnail. With main show, Jake made ours, and we've just been playing around with the template ever since.
That's basically what it was. I was like, okay, cool. I worked with someone at Skybound there for a little bit on that too. But then basically they threw me to the wolves in the first week. After basically a week of training, or actually, I'm sorry, a session on OBS, and then like, yes, I did figure out stereo. I did. I figured it out.
It's not that hard. You hit the button that says go live.
I just was wondering. I just wanted to make sure I was doing the right thing. I got it. Good, Belford. He's a pain in my ass.
That's his job. Is the best boss. That's
true.
Belford's job.
That is true. But like I was saying, like within a week after one session and me trying to practice, they basically threw me in, and it went okay. I needed to eventually upgrade my computer a little bit. So I realized that first week they were choppy as hell because I didn't have quite the RAM I should have to stream on OBS. But that was how I did that. We did that for a little bit. When it ended at the end of the year, because we were having some more matches. That's basically the reason why it ended. Like we have the 3 matches a week now. That was one of the slots that they were to use. They don't have enough budget and time for those different slots. They ended it. And I sent Christian a message, afterwards saying, thank you for the opportunity. It was great. Appreciate it. Christian messaged me back saying, I still have something in mind for you later on. I was like, sure, that's fine. Wait a little bit. And that's when I got a message later on asking me if I wanted to be a part of the team with the FCL. Brad got me aboard. Brad and I already had that, like you said before, Brad and I already had that comfortable working relationship. We knew each other pretty well at that point, knew what to expect from each other. And we went from there and assembled a team. And now I get the title of executive producer.
So it's funny that you say it, like you've worked together. You worked together for a while. At that point, he helped you come on board. What is it like exactly actually working with Brad behind the scenes?
The boat.
What's it like working with a guy who self-proclaimed calls himself the best?
Honestly, he's really down to earth. He's like one of those down to earth guys I've ever met in my life. What you see on screen is like just the more amped up version of himself, but he's not much different even backstage. Like he still has the voice that he still has that announcer voice even when he's talking normally for the most part. He's always willing to do anything you need him to do. He's never seems to be bothered about anything. Like sometimes I'll get like amped up or I'll be kind of like I'm nervous about something. Like, oh yeah, do this, got to this, and he's kind of like, yeah, got it done, we got it. And he's like no worries about things whatsoever, but not in a bad way. Not that he's not concerned about it. He just has that much confidence that everything's going to go right because he has confidence in himself. He has confidence in the team. It's a really good working relationship. We text or at least daily now at this point. If not talk on the phone, we got plans during. He likes to run things by, make sure we're all up to date on everything. It's a pretty good working relationship so far with him. I like working with Brad a lot.
That's really cool. Now, obviously, what we've been advertising, we didn't put C2A on the thumbnail. We put FCL, and we know there may be some things that you can talk about, things you might not be able to talk about, things you don't even know if you have the answer for at the moment, which is the head producer, maybe you should know. But when it comes to the FCL, there are actually very few things that people do know about it. I mean, we've been seeing the steady stream over the last week of people being released and named on the roster. We know something like it's on Twitch. We know that the first match is, I think, like March 30th. But that's sort of it.
Okay.
We don't really know much. We know there is a league, and we know that it's coming up soon.
I can confirm both of those things.
Can you explain in your own words, and or at least in the ways that you know that you can, what is it about the FCL that actually makes it? Pauline is right. Just tell us your secrets.
Spill everything.
What is it about the FCL that actually helps make it stand out from the Schmoedown, or actually makes it of a piece? Because we like maybe there's the format, or who's involved, or what kind of structure there is to it that makes it both its own thing while still being an arm of the Schmoedown.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is definitely obvious, like I said, an arm. It is, you said it best, it's an arm of the Schmoedown. Obviously, we don't exist without the Schmoedown. We are going to be on the Schmoedown Twitch channel every Tuesday night starting March 30th at 3 p.m. Pacific. There'll be 2 matches a week. And then they will be uploaded. This I don't necessarily know. I believe it will be Sunday night. The following Sunday night, they'll be uploaded to the Clips channel, the Schmoedown Clips channel that Frank Janich runs. They're kind of rebranding it Schmoedown Extra, I believe it is now. So those matches will go on YouTube eventually, but you'll kind of want to see it live. There's a lot of cool things will be happening. As far as I make the announcement already, I think Brad announced earlier tonight. We do have both matches have been announced now for our first. There you go, you got it good. It is Cooper Barnes, known as Captain Man from the Nickelodeon show Danger. David Campbell, who I think everybody saw doing the runaround of the after shows. He is entertaining as hell. He supposedly knows his stuff. So I think he's going to be a fun one to watch. And then, of course, like I said, Abby Corinne, who is also a Dynamite player. She was on some of the after shows of Jared Haybach of MTS fame. So he actually is one of the named competitors who have performed in the MTS before. He's going to be making his debut in the FCL as well. We're appreciative of that. He's a good guy as well. It's pretty fun. As far as the rest of the things go, well, it is pitched to us. It is going to be a developmental league. Now, what that means is if you are a wrestling fan, if anybody's a wrestling fan, it's kind of what NXT is to the WWE, I should say, rather. We are in the business of developing talent. The players that are going to be here, it's not necessarily a minor league system. That's not what we're doing, a minor league system. But we are trying to make players that stand out. And yes, these players will be available to be picked up during free agency. Christian has said there will be 3 free agency periods during the year now. I think he made that clear announcement. And the players that are going to be looked at will be players in the FCL. That's definitively, if you want to catch the next people that are going to join your favorite factions in the Schmoedown, the FCL is where you're going to find them training, so to speak, and getting their act together down there. It's a great experience for me to look at, because I look at it as if some players who jump right to the Schmoedown, they're not quite ready yet, as far as not trivia wise, being in front of a camera, because the Schmoedown, as we know, is theatrical and it's also trivia, right? So it's good to be able to do storylines and everything else, so we can get these people ready camera wise, get them comfortable, and boost their trivia knowledge up. They get to showcase themselves, and now managers can look at these people and say, oh, I know what we're getting, I know what I want to bring them up. So that is the idea behind it at this point. We're going to have our own systems, though. We're going to have our own title. I can say that. We are definitely having our own championship title that will be probably decided, I would say, sooner rather than later. We're going to try to make that happen. We want to establish somebody pretty quickly as a champion. You don't want to leave that hanging up all year. What else can I say initially? I'll say this. We are not going to have teams. There's not going to be a team division at this point. Will that happen next year or next season as that goes on? I'm leaving that open. Never say never, I guess. We don't want to concentrate on teams, because especially at this point, teams is the bane of digital existence anyway. Yeah. So let's concentrate on getting singles together first. As far as IG and Star Wars go, they will happen this year, but we're going to concentrate on singles first. I think the first, I mean, don't quote me on this necessarily, but probably first 6 weeks to 2 months, we'll probably be establishing our singles division. Then we will try.
We have to establish something. Yeah, you got to make sure that it functions in its original intention before you can expand on it. That makes sense.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And then we'll expand out with the IG division and then the Star Wars division. By the end of the year, we'll definitely have at least all three divisions represented. As far as your question about the differences, well, the way I look at it is that I kind of view us as like a little bit like the old guerrilla version of the Schmoedown from like back a few seasons ago. Like the Schmoedown now is very much a strong competitive base with a lot of rules and distinguished things. They had the factions, they had everything set up as far as this has to be done a certain way. We have a little more freedom at this point to experiment a little bit. Tristan has given us pretty much free reign. He's obviously going to be oversight. He's that's true. I'm making this all up. You have no idea what I'm saying. It's true. Thankfully. Christian, obviously, it's oversight, but it's Brad's lead to run. But we don't want to, since we are developing players as we are, we don't want to take it too far away from the Schmoedown either, because that wouldn't make sense. Because what's the point of using this to develop players if they're not going to be hitting the Schmoedown, right? I will say what we will do is probably have a few different categories that will come up. We're starting with the basis of the Schmoedown categories, the same basic categories for the most part. We might add our own for fun. And I know I can say that one thing I'll say, which I don't know, we don't get in trouble with not because this isn't official yet. We have tossed around the idea of making a different kind of event at some point, maybe towards the end of the year, something like maybe a different style of event kind of thing. Like, how you have the free for all, you have something like that. Maybe we'll figure out something a little fun that way. But there's going to be storylines, there's going to be trivia, there's going to be personalities, and I think it's going to be a good time.
That was something that I know Buck and I had been talking about earlier that we were very curious about, was the idea of character and story, and the idea of the developmental league is literally to develop, and would they be creating their own character and storylines within the developmental league? And I guess something that I guess strikes me now is if they were to create their own storyline, their own character, and then, for instance, one of them with that character that they develop gets picked up and put in the main league, does that mean that if they have some sort of a running storyline and then free agency, they get picked up in the middle of it, does their storyline potentially become canonical within the Schmoedown, and then by that way the FCL is officially canonical within the storylines of the Schmoedown?
That actually is a question I can't answer yet. I can honestly say we don't fully know how that's going to work yet. I do know
that feels like it's a little far down the line.
Right. Let's establish ourselves first. I will say my belief, and this is nothing coming from above, this is my own belief system, is that I feel like, first of all, Christian could decide to change your character completely. You could have somebody come up and decide, because I could say somebody going from WCW to WWF also, you could decide to completely change the character completely. But I believe if they've done something for so long, there's probably a reason why it worked, probably bring them up, you'll probably stick to it. But as far as canonically goes, I think that my goal, and Brad and my goal, is to make this canonical to a degree. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'd love to have us be bigger than the Schmoedown at some point. As far as getting more popular.
You want it more canonical than Netflix is to the MCU.
Exactly. We don't want the Netflix thing. We want maybe Disney Plus to the MCU films. That's what we're looking for at this point, potentially. Right. Now, maybe a better comparison secretly would be Mandalorian compared to the sequel trilogy. But that's something I shouldn't say too much.
So you did say how you do want to establish a main singles competitor to get that championship. Are there any plans to have an actual belt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, there's a belt in design right now.
So obviously you want to do it early on. And you guys have already, what was it, when Brad was on last week, I think Buck mentioned to me, because I wasn't able to catch it, I think you said in the chat or something there were 43 competitors already in the roster at that point in time. If for instance, someone gets that belt and then they get snatched up. Then the belt is vacated. Now other people have to compete again for it. Are you planning on there being any kind of tournament to get to that point? Are you just going to kind of see how it goes, and then someone who has 2 wins while everyone else has 1 just becomes it? Like, how do you have a general outline, if not like a more specific plan yet, on how to get from introducing someone to the FCL to being that champion when you have so many players that are going to be first timers together in it?
We have a general plan in place to crown the new champion, and then we also have the general idea of what we're going to do if said champion gets called up during the year, how we would handle those kind of things. Just general plan in place. Not much I can talk about at this point, but general plan.
I get it. It's a general plan for the generals chat. You'll share it with us later.
So a question I think a lot of people are wondering. So we have the 43 supposed roster. What was the process like determining who you wanted to invite into the first class league?
Well, for the most part, we wanted to keep to the draft list. That's what we were kind of instructed we wanted to do because everybody was there. There are probably a handful of people that we got the okay for, or who weren't around for the draft or weren't available for the draft list at the time, that Christian okays, that kind of thing. We took the entire list. We looked through. We looked at some of the video. We did the same thing that the MTS did. We looked at some of the audition tape. For some of the named players, obviously, the ones who have worked in the MTS before, but just people we liked. We knew they might be available, so we wanted to have them. That's actually obviously the other pool. Anybody who's in the MTS before was obviously eligible for us to go see if we could have. You saw that, Jared Habon's coming in. Late to the Party is in as well. They made that announcement.
Keaton Marquis
is another one, correct? Even, let's see. Who else was announced? Alex Marzonia, even though we never had a match, was technically on a roster for a hot second. So he's there. But generally speaking, we took a look at who wanted to be in, who really seemed like they wanted to be in, who gave a good audition. And otherwise, we looked at their background, and we thought they might fit into storylines and things of that nature.
Very cool. And so, again, referencing this number 43. That was when Brad was on, and we've been seeing the steady flow of names being announced. Is that 43? Is that number still in flux? Are there still people that you're in negotiations with to add? Are you still working to pin some of those people down? Is it still sort of like going up and down, or have you pretty much solidified your base number for now with the FCL?
I would say we are a little bit in between that. I think we're pretty much set for the initial roster, but there's always some flux. We had a couple people like that dropped out that couldn't do it.
Right.
Overall, and we'd had a couple people that who were thrown our way. And Christian was like, "Oh, well, we talked to this person. That seems like a good person to be someone who wasn't around then." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'll talk to them." It's more on an individual basis, not really not setting out a blanket anymore at this point.
Right.
But we have a couple people in mind that we might reach out to if things don't work out, or for when free agency comes and maybe some people get taken up, that kind of thing. There's a lot of, but basically, I think the overall first blanketing is done at this point. But there's still actually some people to announce as well, so we're still working on that.
Very cool.
That'll be exciting to hear. So, what my question is we have these fan leagues that have been around for a while. Their format and the Schmoedown format is very much the same. What's the difference between the FCL and these fan leagues?
Well, production value, first off, I think, and just the tie into the mothership. And we have anything we got Christian to help guide us to a degree in a way. I think the overall difference is that this is where people are going to look. This is where the managers are going to look. Whereas before, all the fan leagues that do a great job. They do a great job, and they're there for a reason. But at the time, the managers would kind of look to almost any of them, right? Because I don't know where they're going to go get people. Now they kind of have that focus of this is where the talent is going to go. The people who get into this league are going to be the ones who pretty much go up moving forward. So.
Yeah. Actually, Billy Belford here in the chat. I'm just waiting for it to actually pop up on the StreamYard here. If someone is dropped from a Schmoedown roster, will the FCL try to pick them up? Like, do they have automatic like dibs on being able to say I want to be in the FCL and keep playing, and then they get to be a part of it?
Well, I don't think if somebody gets dropped, they can't say they're going to play in the FCL. We'd have to want them. But at the same time, if you're in the Schmoedown now, then I don't see any reason why we wouldn't, unless there was something behind the scenes or whatever.
Right. Obviously, if a person is a good person and then something happens and maybe their record just wasn't where it was and they got dropped and then they want to go into the FCL. I'm not saying like one of these people turns out to be like a trash human.
Right.
Right. Obviously you don't want them involved. Obviously you don't want them involved.
Not that anyone's really a trash human that we know of in this program anyway, but but
except
what
for
it is,
you, but right. Exactly.
Well, except for me, that's okay.
Except for you and that fucking mustache. But
it's beautiful. Beautiful. But to answer your question, I mean, we haven't really talked much about it, but I don't. Again, we had a free reign to take anybody who's in the Schmoedown before. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're an Schmoedown player, we have free reign to contact you and get you involved.
Now, another question actually that I was thinking of that actually kind of ties in with Billy's. So the FCL, obviously, the first pool that you went to before you kind of expanded to people that weren't actually on the draft list, it was the draft list. And now, at the end of this year, obviously, there's going to be the initial draft list, and then maybe people get to submit auditions again. Will there be the opportunity for everyone who is a current FCL roster member to automatically be on the draft list for next year? Or is that something that you're still determining based on how they are this year?
That'd actually be more of a Christian question, honestly, because Christian will have to determine that. So as far as I know, I don't see why not, because if you've gotten accepted to play in this league, and Christian, I mean, obviously we ran a roster by Christian. He knows everything that's going on as far as that goes, so I don't see why, if you made in this league, you wouldn't be on the draft list. But I don't know that for sure.
Christian, I figured it was an interesting thought, considering at any of these free agency periods, anyone could be plucked up, which means that technically they're eligible just like if they were on a draft list. So it's essentially a draft list in stasis. That's just sort of like you're placating the draft list in the meantime and having them be able to play while they're waiting for the possibility of being drafted. So
I also assume that new people can audition next year as well. I assume.
Yeah, and there will be auditions submitted to the Schmoedown. Would you have potential auditions or people that might want to submit themselves for consideration for the FCL as well? Because maybe they want to participate and learn, but they're not ready for the Schmoedown.
I would consider that myself. Again, that one wouldn't be a decision I would make. Personally, I think that's a good idea. I'll probably talk to Brad about it. We'll have to see. There might be things that I don't know about that he has in mind or something to that effect. We haven't really solidified anything about that. Again, that's going to be something we decide much later on down the line after we get established. So
obviously, like you have so many guys you have so many like players to potentially kind of schedule right now. These are all they're all still obviously ideas, but as it's being a developmental league, you're developing so many things, so many ideas are probably in flux.
The good news is, Brad, I can say this because Brad said it, I think he said that POV or something like that, is that the fact is he is the chairman for the most part, and if he can book somebody that he wants to book, then it'll happen. Like, for example, you never know what's going to happen. You know how he has contact with Booker T. You can actually see Booker T come in and do a celebrity match sometime, or a fun match in the FCL, get somebody like what he said, Kane in there.
Yeah. Billy's right here. Yeah, this is the basic thought process I had there, but I mean, it would make sense if that they all are on the draft list. So
I think that's pretty much what we'll basically say. But again,
so my next question here is: so say Christian says that the first window for free agency, say he says it's May 1st through May 15th. Can the FCL either say no, or does a competitor in the FCL, if they're reached out by a manager, do they have to go? Say they just don't feel like they're ready, because you don't want to go up to the main league and you shit the bed. Like, you would rather spend your time developing your skills in the FCL. Are they required to go?
That I do not know the answer to. That would be something Brad and Christian have to talk about, to be honest with you.
It was just something that kind of crossed my mind, because most likely anyone, if they're reached out by a manager to be in the Schmoedown, they're a big time fan, they will probably leap at that opportunity. But there are some.
I would say I have the feeling Christian has probably has a plan for that. I wouldn't know about it. That's something probably Christian has already thought about. He's already thought about the free agency. I mean, he knows about the FCL. He knows about the free agency. I'm sure he has something worked out that Brad knows about. I don't know about it. I'm sure there's something.
Well, yeah. As the de facto showrunner of the FCL, you should also know about this. And I'm disappointed that you don't, because you could have just done a, well, let's see, sort of vague answer. But straight up not knowing is just a disappointment and unprofessional.
Maybe I just said I don't know. Maybe I do, and this is my answer is I don't know.
Then you're a liar.
You never know. I don't know. I could be.
Then you're a liar. Then who are you?
Who am I? I don't know. I don't know.
Is the structure the same? So in singles we get eight questions, we get a wheel round, and we get a round 3. So it's all the same format.
At this point, yes. Now, is there potential that something could change? That's the one I was talking about before, as far as the Guerrilla League of things. As we're developing, we might decide to shake things up. I mean, we'll give players enough warning before we implement something, but I don't think anything is necessarily held in place. Like, we have to do this for the whole year. If we decide later on to change it up a little bit, we might decide to change it up. How that is, I mean,
yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
And the bill will also not be allowed within 500 feet of a school.
My design definitely has the mustache right over the front of the center plate, but I'll have to see if Brad goes with that or not. He likes me, so maybe he will. But we're gonna. I guess I think at first we wanted to get it all together. We're gonna cut. We don't want to break the wheel at this point. No pun intended. The only difference we have so far that I can say I told them already. The second round will only have one choice of a slice. They're only one slice choice.
Okay. So you can only put one shrimp on there.
That's the one difference we have so far.
It won't be a belt. It'll be a whole boat. That's right. That's right. For one championship win, you too can wear Brad Gilmore.
So, out of all of the competitors that have been announced, which one was it like when you heard you got really excited?
Well, some I haven't announced yet, so I got to make sure I don't say anybody that because that'd be bad. But I love David Campbell. What he does, his energy is so amazing. That's why I'm so happy that he's in our first match, because his energy just screams out that he's got charisma. I don't know about his trivia knowledge. I'm hoping it's good. It's good, but his trivia knowledge should be good from what I've heard. But he was one of the guys I really was excited about. But I'm also excited to get some of the players that we haven't seen in a bit. I'm happy to.
I mean, look at that smile! Like, right? How can you? Like, seriously, he looks so excited.
I was legitimately surprised that he wasn't actually drafted, just based off of his charisma and likability. Yeah. I might have been one of those things like where people are like, well, I might not be, because he might not be fitting into my plan, but he's definitely being swooped up by someone else, and then that ended up just not fitting in anywhere, which sucks. I mean,
it sucks for them.
He's a better it sucks for them. I mean, he's definitely a better choice than like Chris Jericho.
I know your take on that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Actually, it's kind of funny that during the draft, I was texting with Brad a little bit. He was like, "David Campbell's not getting taken." We kind of like gave each other a few smiley, winky faces at that point. Like we're excited that he wasn't getting taken in a way. Not for him. I was sad that he could take it for his own stuff.
For you, because he was a big hit in the after show circuit.
We liked him in the after show circuit. We liked him. We liked the moxie that he had. There's a few other people that I did like too. Especially, I'm glad that Jared Habon's coming back. I'm glad that
I don't think it's just that. I don't think it's just that, because we got people from Australia and whatnot that did make it, and Australia is, if in anything, it's a harder one to schedule around, I believe. But that's a whole other thing.
18 hours from Pacific time.
Yeah, I just played Mario Party for the Pajukan. And right. when I did that, Jacob London and Taylor Robinson were on with us, and they're in Australia, and I think it was like we started at like 10 o'clock at night Saturday night, and it was like 11 o'clock. It was like 2 o'clock the next day in the afternoon.
They're all 2 in the afternoon at that point. So further your question, Abby and Iman also are very fun people. I'm glad to have them aboard as well. And let's see, anybody else? I would say, I mean, Keaton Mark again, like we said. Sean Chandler was announced today. Last night. He's a big name again as well. It's a lot of good people that I'm excited about. To be honest, I'm excited about most of the people. Cody Hall. We get to see Cody Hall again. I'd like to see him more.
Now, from the way that you said that, you're excited about most of the people. Who are you not excited about working with?
There's no one on the list that I'm not excited. I'm not happy to work with. And that sounds like a bullshit answer. I know. I get that sounds like a bullshit answer. But there's nobody
I was just trying to see if you were gonna notice that I wanted you to point out someone that you didn't like, but that didn't happen. So
I noticed it. I just noticed it in the swerve. That's all.
Yeah, good swerve.
What are your duties when it comes to as the executive producer of the first?
He's also head booker, I believe. He once told me.
No, head writer. I'm actually head questioner and the PJ Campbell.
Head writer. Oh yeah, you are the PJ Campbell of it. You got that annoying queen hat instead of a beanie.
So. Pretty much. It's me. I'm the head. So I'm head writer. So we assemble a team of writers that will work with me. And I'll assist Brad with booking. I'll assist Brad with storylines. I'm pretty much doing a lot of networking for Brad as well. It's basically everything that Brad needs. I'm willing to do at this point. And
so like this is the networking. This is the networking you're doing on behalf of Brad.
That's part of it, I guess. Yeah,
I guess so.
Because he's so great at
because he's super great. He's super great at responding to DMs. He's very good at saying yes, what time, and then you respond, and then he leaves you on red.
He will get back to you, Tyler. I promise. He definitely is a little busy. He's definitely been very busy lately, especially.
Oh no, absolutely. It's all joke. It's all in jest. It's all fun.
Yeah.
We get it. It is funny though sometimes when it's like when you get to point out to someone who's like working with them and you say how someone may be and trying to communicate with them, and then it's always like I think we said the same thing to like Frank Janish, and Janish is like, yeah, that sounds like him.
Well, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I'll come on blast on air right now. We're supposed to have chilled action with him tonight. But I texted him yesterday. He's like, oh wait, that's next week, right? Next on the 29th. I'm like, well, it was supposed to be tonight, but we can do it next week. We're okay with that. He's a good guy.
I see what you're doing, Alan. I see what you're doing. I know your name is Ryan Chandler, not Alan Smithy.
I love the director. He's a funny guy. He's a funny guy.
He's great.
So we're just over a week away. The 30th there. Yeah. Are you nervous, excited, stressed, anxious?
Yes. Pretty much. All of them.
Every single one.
All rolled into one. I'm excited. I'm excited about it. We have a lot of things we're going to do. Technically, we're trying to do some things that are hopefully going to work out pretty well. We have some. We're going to do a tech run, I believe, a little bit this week potentially to figure out some things.
But it's all live, right?
It's going to be live. Yeah, every match is going to be live. That's what we're doing. That's why we're doing the tech run. I do want to make sure.
So I know you're running through it there, but I guess this question just popped up. So if everything's live, and then a week later or whatever the plan is, it drops on the Schmoedown Extras page. Yep. Is there going to be the same sort of thing that happens when it comes to like the live pay-per-view matches where you're going to where there's like a normal maybe StreamYards thing tracking the points and then you get graphics that are going to be overlaid later? Do you have graphics team that's going to be working with you to kind of make it live or what's the plan there on the behind the scenes kind of?
We have, I will say, I don't want to give away too much. I don't know exactly how much we want to give away on that, to be honest with you, but I will say we do have the graphics person. We do have an editor. And we do have an editor, so
because I know like when it comes to the actual pay-per-views, there's only so many graphics, and then a lot of it gets edited afterwards for the general public. And I didn't know if there's some graphics work, obviously, but then there's more stuff that happens when it gets released on the main YouTube.
We do have a plan in place, and part of that is to see what we can do with the tech run, and we'll see how that works. And maybe some things might be a little bit different than the Schmoedown itself. We're gonna do our best to. We want to do our best to be better than the main brand in every way, shape, or form. That's our goal, and that should be our goal. If it's not our goal, why are we doing it? You know.
Absolutely.
I want to be the best. I want to be the greatest in there. So.
The best there ever was, and
best there ever will be. We got parameters we're working within that we have. Obviously we are hired by Christian and everything else. We have the parameters we were given, and we're gonna do our best to kick ass on with them.
Absolutely. Nice.
So last year when we had the Star Wars tournament on Twitch, Those were done live, and then basically you could go back and watch it on the Twitch channel. Do you know if that's going to be the same thing? Like, say you miss it live and you go like right after it's done, can you start it from the beginning and watch it as a video on demand, or is that something you're not sure of yet?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure what the answer is to that exactly. We've talked about both ways. I know with the idea that it's being uploaded later, it may not be, but I gotta believe that. I really can't say anything because I don't really know for sure on that. Part of that is part of what our tech works will be talking about.
All right, so here's a question. You mentioned it earlier. 3 p.m. Pacific, Tuesdays.
Yes,
and 2 matches.
Take
are they
a
always?
Patrick.
Yes.
Are they going to be? Are they going to be back to back?
Correct.
Every Tuesday. And
Yes.
how long? Now, how long do you think that might normally be on Tuesdays?
We are under the assumption as of now that each match will probably be about an hour. So we're looking
So
at
it'll
time
definitely
from 3 to
end
5.
before 9 Eastern. That's all I care about. One can hope that it's not going to run 3 hours every time.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. We're not looking to make this an epic long night every night. The goal is 3 to 5.
I don't care how epic it is. I just want to make sure that it doesn't cut off during our time. For very selfish reasons.
It's always selfish reasons. I get it.
I'm the first one to say it was selfish before you did, so I own up to that. No, it was more so like a genuine so it's back to back, and obviously you're gonna have people that would be on the desk, asking questions because otherwise how's it gonna get done? They're gonna have a wheel. They're gonna be answering stuff in the same general structure. Maybe you're gonna throw some curveballs in there because it's a developmental league. Not only are you developing them, but you're also developing what can work and what can't work with the game if you want to throw new stuff in. Are there going to be things like post-match, pre-match interviews too?
That's the idea, yes.
And obviously, one thing that I think will actually probably cut down on time is there are no managers in the FCL. Correct?
There are no managers at this point in the FCL. Nobody has a manager. Nobody has a mouthpiece as of now. Part of that is developing that as well.
That's a few minutes a player that gets cut out of the timing right then and there.
That's probably
I'm not going to
5
guarantee
minutes.
that never will happen. I'm not guaranteeing that because that might be something that develops. But at least initially, that's definitely not the first week as far as I know. So unless storylines change.
Yeah, I mean you're working with it of just kind of throwing them in because then it's a matter of now are you going to have obviously developmental managers, but then are you developing managers then? That's a whole thing because managers are pretty locked in right now.
Exactly. It's what those are a different story at this point.
It's very very interesting, kind of like
what
works and what doesn't.
Who knows down the line if this is really successful and does what we think it's going to do. Maybe we'll start developing managers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't guarantee either way at this point. I'd love to see it eventually get that way. But
love to see more factions, maybe double it up because then the brackets would be enormous. Mm-hmm. But it's because if you want to have the proper amount of factions for brackets to make sense, you don't want to just keep having play-in matches.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Now. Another thing, obviously, is when you're trying to, since there are no factions, there are no managers.
Right.
When people are playing, they just kind of do they have their records to go off of? Do their wins based on how they win equate to points, a la the way factions are gaining points, and then that might help affect it? Or is that all still is that another idea that might be in flux if it was even talked about?
I mean, things have been talked about. I think there's not going to be factions. There's not going to be faction points. Not like that. Everything goes like this. We're going to rank the players obviously as we go along because that's how we're going to do the scheduling. How we're going to schedule people is going to be based on how the ranking works. If people win a certain amount of matches, they'll get the number one contender shot. They'll get their title shots, things like that. I don't think it's going to be hard and fast. Like you have this many points and this gets you that. It's going to get a little bit flexible. But it's it's going to be kind of like the older Schmoedown was to a degree. When we're guerrilla size, where we can kind of let things develop as they need to develop, have those records in place so we know where we want to go. Maybe storylines might influence a little bit potentially. It's going to be a little open-ended at this point. To be decided fully, I'd say. That's what I'd say. To be decided fully later on, but that's the initial goal lines.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all the questions that I really have.
Yeah, we went through our questions and in the first question I asked you, and you just kept going and kept going, you answered 4 of the things that I think you wanted to ask. And honest, like we were trying to figure out what we could ask you through all this, because there's only so much that that you can say. I feel like we definitely learned more about this than we probably expected, but also I think the general kind of questions we had were all, basic stuff like structure.
Right.
What is the FCL? So
a lot of stuff will be developed as we go and decided as we go. So.
Looks like Billy just asked this. I think we did kind of did touch on it. Has there been any talk of using the FCL as a testing ground for game mechanics and rules for the Schmoedown?
As far as official talk, I'd say no. That's not something we've. It's kind of one of those things where, like, backstage, we kind of like said maybe if we do something and it works, the Schmoedown might pick up on it and decide to use it, but nothing officially talked about. It's kind of an unofficial thing. I mean, it's that kind of makes sense to me. If something really works well, then why wouldn't they take it? But what's up, AJ?
Hey, AJ. Yeah. So for the most part, priority is developing potential players,
developing talent,
and them as talent, and not just both their trivia expertise as well as their character and their ability to work within storyline and being directed.
Correct.
So, all right, cool. I think that's really it. We don't really have much more at this time. Obviously, we know, before anything, I know that you're gonna. Did you mention your favorite car from Too Fast, Too Furious?
I did not. I don't think I have a favorite car from Too Fast, Too Furious. Whatever John says is probably right.
Yeah, that would make sense. That got a big old no comment. Thanks, AJ. Here. Paulina wants to know real quick. What's your favorite color?
Favorite color? Well, probably red. Black and red.
The colors that you're wearing right now.
Pretty much exactly what I'm wearing right now. I did that on purpose. Not really.
And will the SCL have profanity and on-screen drinking?
I'm going to say no. We are still a member of
Now, will it have profanity or on-screen drinking?
That we'll find out, I guess.
Will the FCL not have? We wanted to wrap up, but now we're getting too many questions right here at the end from the chat. Will the FCL not have Ed Harris?
Ed Harris is a slice in the Schmoedown, so it will definitely be a slice in the.
That is another question. That is another question there. Man, Paulina just wants you to just tell everything.
I know.
So I guess last question, and I think we're really going to wrap up here, is so you guys are going to be working based off of the same categories that are available in. Oh, hey!
Oh. Wow, this is different. This is different.
Yeah, this is
getting this on the other end.
This is what we're going to start doing, having speed round questions at the end. Why does pineapple not belong on pizza?
Because pineapple on pizza makes a trash pizza. That's why.
Oh,
it's
man.
Not pizza anymore. It becomes like a fruit salad. I don't like that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you're full of trash by what you say there, because I think anything can be on pizza, because it's a pizza and then toppings on the pizza, so it doesn't matter.
You don't want to ruin the pizza. You don't want to ruin the pizza.
Is this the Italian in you talking?
Yeah.
Because the Italian I'm married to ate pizza with pineapple yesterday.
Well, that's wrong. That's very wrong. She's betrayed her heritage. She's betrayed her country. She's betrayed pizza in general.
Paulina, he said you betrayed your country.
I do love her, but that's I can't do it. I can't abide by that.
So. All right.
And I just put her in timeout. That's just disgusting.
Fuck you. She said, "Oh my god." Anyways, everyone's getting little weird there for a second.
That's okay.
We know that, like, before you say where people could find you, this has been great. It's been really awesome getting to have you on here to talk a lot of FCL stuff. We do know that tomorrow we're going to have we're going to have you actually on LGR. Correct. With their new show, The Gold Standard, which is going to be their weekly show talking about FCL. And that's going to be very exciting. It's going to be very cool to have them there. So everyone, if you came here and you checked out Paul talking here, definitely make sure that you go and check them out tomorrow. I believe it's at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. So if I'm not mistaken, it could be 9.
It is 9 because
my calendar says 9. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Eastern. I'm mixing things up. Yeah. So it's 9 Eastern tomorrow. Everyone, if check out our stuff, and then on a second tab, have their stuff open because everyone will be doing stuff. But make sure that you definitely go and check out their thing. I'm sure they're going to have a great show. Other than that, Paul, where can people find you?
At Paul_Dinuzzo on Twitter. You can find me on the Call to Action podcast with Belford in the chat and a bunch of other cool people like that. We do Chill to Action. It's supposed to be every other week. Sometimes things happen, as you can tell. You can find me on the Action Industries YouTube channel with Ben and Drew on weekend programming. All weekend programming there. PLD Projects is my own YouTube channel. I'm doing a Star Wars show every Sunday. I'm hoping to develop a show about Queen and maybe eventually get on the Resistance eventually, but we'll find out. I'm a little busy right now, so hopefully when time frees up a little bit.
By the way, everyone, his Twitter and PLD Projects is in the description of this video.
Thanks.
So
yeah, I appreciate
go
it.
ahead and follow there on Twitter and subscribe to his YouTube. I believe he's approaching 200.
Yes, I am. I'm 4,200 for that, so that makes me happy. Yes, Turn It Up to 11. That's the show I do with Billy on every other week. When we don't have Chill, we usually do Turn It Up to 11. Although now that's got flipped out to we changed Chill and everything else. But our next Turn Up to 11 will be 2 weeks from now, and we'll be doing most shocking moments in the history of the Schmoedown. And yes, I do have a stereo. I actually had my first show on stereo with Billy last night. It's the first time I got it. I actually enjoyed it. So I'll be reaching out to you, maybe you guys. We could have a stereo thing at some point. Doing something.
Absolutely. I'd love to get on a stereo with you right after a very important big event after you've been drinking. So rather than you just texting me information I shouldn't know, you could just say it on air for everyone to hear.
Perfect. Good to know.
Perfect.
All right.
Buck, where can people find you?
Follow me here, BrandonBuck88, and follow the show Twitter at SchmoeMeMoney. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, please.
Absolutely. And you can find me at GOFF1106. That is my Twitter. It's also my Instagram, but follow me on Twitter. That's the most important thing. You can follow us at Schmoe Me Money. Please subscribe to this channel. Please comment after the video is over what you liked, what you didn't like. We're hoping to have some more of these sort of interviews on. We know that we have our more competitive interviews, and we'd love to have PLD come on for one of those as well. Just to kind of bullshit around.
With Jake, because I want to see that shit.
Because Jake would love to see, we would probably love to see who's more interesting based on the scoreboard. But outside of that, tomorrow we have at 9 o'clock Eastern, we do have our flagship show, Schmoe Me the Money, where we are going to be breaking down last week's crazy set of matches, including the Star Wars Championship match. And that is going to have a very, very cool panel. Yes, Billy, that is right. Are you fucking kidding me? That was a quote that Billy kept saying that led him to the win last week. This week, we're going to have a very good panel. Buck, if you want to pull up the thumbnail there, because I still don't know how to do all that. We're going to have 4 people, so we're going to be playing around with the format just a little bit in order to fit all 4, because we are going to have members of the Den, the Quirky Mercs, and the Stars on. That is Lacey Gillerin, Brandon Hanna, Thomas Harper, and Sabrina Ramirez, all on to talk last week. So we are definitely going to have a crazy show tomorrow night. Remember, Thursday night, we also have at 9:30 Eastern, the next installment of The Family Show, the show in which we talk about the Fast and Furious series in retrospective. Nothing's happened with Fast and Furious. Just want to do it because it's fun. Saturdays, we're going to have our breakdowns of the Falcon and Winter Soldier shows, and that's going to be a lot of fun as well. And this Friday, after the pay-per-view, we are launching our next show in conjunction with Spin from the Reel. We are going to have Schmoe Me the Reel, where we will be going live, simulcasting with the guys from Spin from the Reel, just talking about the live shows that happen with the pay-per-view, so we can go right from our Zooms into just reacting and talking about it on air. Maybe people can show up, maybe they won't. Either way, it's going to be a great time. So other than that, I think that's it. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you, PLD, for coming. Hope to have you back here real soon.
Definitely.
All right, see y'all next time.